Welcome to this Fundamentals Lesson Plan series on structural layout and design. In this video, we'll take a look at placing columns and beams along column grids. This is video 4 of 4. My name is John Harridge, and I'll be your host for today's lesson. Let's look at the learning objectives for video 4. At the end of this lesson, you'll be able to place columns at column grid intersections using the @grid tool. Next, we'll look at placing beams along those column grids using the @grids tool as well. And then we'll place footings at columns using the @column tool. And last, we'll wrap up by applying base offset distance properties to an existing column, and then also change a footing type as a conclusion. With that, let's get started. Let me first begin with an instructor preview of the exercise to come. So just hang tight and while I show you the scope of this exercise. The first thing that we'll do is place columns, and I'll just highlight those on the screen for you. So that's step number 1, is to place those columns at the grid intersections. And then second, we will place beams along those column grid lines, as highlighted on screen now. Third, we'll place column footings at each of those columns that are existing, now shown highlighted on screen. And then we'll go back and modify one column to change its base offset property to actually go below grade. And then the last thing we'll do is change the column footing type. So this concludes this preview. I'm going to go ahead and close the file. Okay, please join me now. Let's go ahead and open up an existing file. So go ahead and click open and browse out to your tutorial folder. Folder number 9, Structural Layout and Design. Go ahead and choose Exercise 4. Again, we're continuing from the previous exercise 3 that established the grids as you see on screen. And I just want to confirm that level 1 plan view is the current view. Okay, so to begin, let's open up the structural tab. And we'll look at the column tool. It's in the structural panel. Go ahead and start the tool. Just showing you where the @grid tool is located. It's located on the right-hand side of the contextual ribbon. Let's go ahead and set the active shape to W10 by 33. And then in the options bar, let's go ahead and set the height parameter, or basically the direction of the columns. So they're going to go from level 1 upwards. And then we need to set a constraint. Let's go ahead and set the constraint to level 3. Just confirming those 2 parameters. All right, now we'll start the @grid tool. Go ahead and select it. And now I'd like to have you use a selection set technique. So we'll do a Control left click technique. So Control left click to place grid lines 1, 2, 3, and 4 in a selection set. And then going in the adjacent direction, go ahead and Control left click to also add in grid lines A, B, C, and D. Now if I zoom in to grid line A1, we should actually see a preview of the columns at those grid line intersections. So that's a good sign. We want to see that. All right, so to complete the process and actually generate the columns, go ahead and click Finish. And now we have columns at those grid line intersections. I'll go ahead and select Modify to end the command. Let's open up a 3D view just to confirm progress. And there we go. So your screen should look similar. Next, we'll go ahead and place beams. And to begin that, we'll open up the level 2 plan view. From the structural tab, go ahead and select the beam tool to start the process. Right, just scanning the options bar here. I just want to confirm that the placement plane is set to level 2. The on-grids tool is located here. I'll go ahead and select it to begin that command. And then we want to select the grid lines, so we'll go ahead and create a selection set window going from left to right across all the grids, and then release the left mouse button to accept the selection set. And then if we zoom in, we should be able to see a preview of the beams, but it's kind of hard to tell given that we're in course view and beams show up as a schematic line. Let's go ahead and select Finish to accept and generate the beams at those locations. And then just to confirm progress, let's go ahead and select Modify to end the command first. And then we'll open up the 3D view just to confirm that the beams are placed accordingly. So your screen should look similar to mine. Let's open up the level 2 plan view. Let's just confirm the parametric relationships between columns and beams. So if I place the grid line 1 in a selection set by itself, and then the temporary dimensions become live, let's go ahead and override that value of 30 feet and enter in 20 feet and hit the enter key to accept. Notice that the grid line, the columns, and the beams react parametrically to that new specification, which is great. So let's go ahead and undo that to put it back. Next, we will look at placing footings at the columns. And footings are typically placed at the bottoms of the columns as a support, obviously. Let's go ahead and start the tool. It's not a column type, but it's actually its own element type. So we use the isolated footing tool from the foundation panel. And I'm just confirming that level 2 is actually the active view. So starting the isolated footing tool, let's go into the type selector and make sure that the 72-inch size footing is the active size. Once the size is specified, let's go back over to the right-hand side of the contextual ribbon and select the At Columns tool. And that should take place as soon as we make a selection set of the entire column grid, going from left to right again. You'll see the preview of the foundations at the grid line intersection locations, and then if we choose Finish, note that we get a warning message saying that Revit will automatically relocate the position of those footings to the bottom of the columns, because again, remember, we're at level 2 and the bottom of the current columns are at level 1. So if we go back into the 3D view, just confirming that Revit did in fact relocate the footings at the bottom of the columns. Next, we'll take a look at column base offsets. So for this column in the upper left corner here, or the lower left corner of the building grid, if you will, we'll go ahead and modify that. So I'm going to go ahead and place this column in a selection set. And then looking at the properties palette, we'll take a look at the constraints section, and you'll notice that there's a base offset parameter. I'll go ahead and left click to make that field editable. I'm going to type in -6 feet and then hit the tab key to accept that value. And then to have it apply in the canvas, I'll click apply. Again, I'm receiving a warning message saying that there's a parametric relationship between the footing and the column, so it's going to relocate the footing accordingly. That's good. And then the last thing we'll do is go ahead and change the active footing type. So with that footing selected on screen, you go to the properties palette and select the 96-inch size footing. I'm just zooming to fit here. just so we can see the entire building plan. Okay, let's go ahead and save the file as structural exercise 4 finished. And after you give it a name, go ahead and click Save. This concludes this exercise. We'll go ahead and take a look at next steps. Let's review the learning objectives for exercise 4. In this lesson, you were able to place columns at column grid intersections using the @grids tool. Next, we placed beams along column grids using the OnGrids tool. Next, we placed footings at columns using the @columns tool. And then we applied a base offset distance property to an existing column and also changed out a footing type. With that, let's take a look at Autodesk resources that are available to you. I would like to make you aware of 2 Autodesk resources. The first resource is the Autodesk Education Community, where you can access free software for both students and educators for titles like Autodesk Revit featured in this series. The website address is www.students.autodesk.com. Registration is required to access the free software using either your personal email address or your school-issued email address. The second resource is the Autodesk Digital STEAM Workshop. It's hands-on, project-based learning across multiple industries such as architecture, engineering, and entertainment. The website address is www.digitalsteam.autodesk.com. Registration is required to download the free learning resources using your Autodesk ID created from the Autodesk Education Community. You will find the Fundamentals of Architecture series under the Subject pull-down menu, Architecture link. Assets include step-by-step instructions, datasets, and videos. This concludes this lesson overview summary. Thank you for watching.